There's been a lot of discussions, interview pieces around Ahsoka as the character, the creation of Ahsoka, and her introduction into Clone Wars. A lot of people still don't realize how big of a character she is in general across all of Star Wars if they didn't watch Clone Wars, if they didn't watch Rebels. But Ahsoka's huge. Ahsoka is, as a character, is super exciting and surprising because she's introduced as freaking Anakin Skywalker's Padawan.
Yeah, it was a crazy time.
I'm the new Padawan learner. I'm Ahsoka Tano.
In one of the interviews around Ahsoka, the TV series, Dave Filoni was talking about like the origins of Ahsoka.
There was a character that was a Jedi and there was a Padawan and thought, we'll put them on adventures. But, George had other ideas. He says, well, in this character, and he points to the Padawan we had, and he says, let's give Anakin Skywalker a Padawan. And I was like, Anakin doesn't have Padawan. And he just looked at me and said, Anakin has a Padawan.
That's her.
No, Anakin has an apprentice.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
No. There must be some mistake.
Obviously, it's the Clone Wars as the backdrop. Ahsoka isn't the main character, but it's definitely a core piece of that.
A very core piece.
Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka are the main three pillars of the entire series. I'd say Captain Rex, you can throw him in there as well. Cody a little bit. You get the whole experience here through the eyes of Ahsoka, mostly, I'd say. Like, she's kind of like our ground view when it comes to the whole of the Clone Wars. And then you look at the kind of journey that she has through the whole series, definitely a maturation of experiences, starting off as definitely that apprentice and then ultimately having roles where she leads different groups and different operations. And then you see her start to question her belief in kind of the Jedi Order. Well, outside we can say, oh yeah, she needed to get out of there because she's not in Revenge of the Sith, so obviously she needs to get out of there. But if you look at it from an in-world perspective, I think it's really fascinating because she's one of the few people that we know of that like left the Jedi Order in that way.
Yeah, as a choice.
And then went on a journey of like self-discovery and kind of taking all the pieces that she had learned through all of the years in the Clone Wars to what we know of her when we eventually see her again in Rebels.
Right. Yes, in Rebels, she bestows a lot of wisdom. I'm thinking of when we first see her and she's playing this...
Informant?
Yes.
Spy?
Yes. She's using this alternate name and she's being very mysterious. It's interesting.
In one of the featurettes, they talk about how she is the master. She is this very wizened and experienced Jedi. They're specifically talking about like the lightsaber skills and how you can't really see that. But when you say, hey, she's really talented and skilled and experienced in lightsaber combat, the Force is there, as well as her just experience in fighting this war. Having gone from the Clone Wars, the fall of the Republic, the rise of the Empire, the fall of the Empire.
Yeah.
And now once again, the rise of the Resistance, which will ultimately lead to the rise of the First Order.
Right.
So
also,
she is a through line through the whole trilogy, like all three of them.
Yeah, and she's lived through all that. She left the Jedi Order well before then, so she must have some serious street smarts to be able to have
to have weaved through so many decades of varying controlling powers. You have the warlords, you have the people that still believe in the Empire, and then you have the Resistance. The Resistance is rising from the ashes of the rebellion and the ashes of the Empire.
So seeing her in this new role, I am very curious to know how they're going to explain some of these time gaps.
Yeah.
Because they've got to. I mean...
Clone Wars was a while ago, guys.
Yeah.
And then we see her in live action too as a very different person. We see her kind of hopping in between and trying to find information, still fulfilling her fulcrum role, but in a very different world. You see her interacting with Luke Skywalker, mentioning, oh, hey, you're a lot like your father kind of thing. And we, as the audience, know what that means for her to say that as a character and the growth that he had. Luke at that point had lived through the redemption of Darth Vader, once again being Anakin Skywalker, and now is trying to build this new Jedi Academy. And then we see Ahsoka there as just like this passerby. She's a part of things, but she's not a part of things. She's talking to Luke, but isn't like helping him in any way. She still has her own goals, which is to find Grand Admiral Thrawn. And we see that in Mando Season 2. And generally we just see a very interesting character when we look look at live action Ahsoka, Rebels Ahsoka, and Clone Wars Ahsoka, you see her in these 3 very different stages of life, in 3 very different parts of the galaxy and the timeline.
And now we're going to see her embrace this role of master. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, having thrown it off, separating herself from Sabine, and generally just kind of stepping away from all things.
Stepping away
Jedi.
from people in general.
Yeah.
And in the role of Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's going to become almost the thing she most fears.
Yeah.
It's interesting.